With Justin Trudeau's intention to resign as Liberal leader and Prime Minister eventually, when they pick a new leader, how will this all work? Who's in charge of Canada and who could be the next Liberal leader? Hello, I'm Adrienne Batra. With me are Brian Lilley and Warren Kinsella. We're going to get a bit granular here. We're going to have to get a little bit wonky here, Brian and Warren.
Yeah.
But I think it's very important because Canadians are now left wondering, what next? What happens now? So let's sort of unpack, for starters, on the government side. The House has been prorogued, meaning all the government business has been shut down. It returns till March 20. We're supposed to be returning March 24th. Let's walk through what's happening.
Okay, so there was supposed to be a meeting Tuesday morning of the Commons Public Accounts Committee to try and bring forward a non-confidence motion. That, of course, is dead because everything in the government is shut down. The House was supposed to return on January 27th, the week after Trump's inauguration. That, too, is now put off. So the House will not come back until March 24th. The government remains in office, they remain in power, and thankfully for Canadians, they are funded up until March 31st. The reason they're coming back March 24th, and frankly, I'm a bit surprised it's that late, is that they need to have a spending bill. They don't need to present a budget. They don't need to, make new promises or anything like that, but they do need to pass what is it called? An act to supply His Majesty's government with certain sums of money. It's roughly that is what it comes out as. But that doesn't give them a lot of time. They could end up falling on that bill, by the way. They could end up facing non-confidence motions almost immediately after the government comes back with a new Liberal leader and Prime Minister, by the way. But we could also see a scenario where they essentially say, vote us down or vote for our spending bill or shut the government down. Now, if that happens and we go into an election, nobody has to worry about their pension checks not coming, okay? Because once the House is dissolved, the government can continue to be funded through what's called special warrants. These exist for elections, not prorogation, though. So we are going to see another showdown. They've avoided the showdown for now, but we are going to be in a showdown period at the end of March. Could they actually, and I'd love to hear Warren's thoughts on this, pass their spending bill at the end of March and then prorogue again? I would say yes, because if a spending bill passes, that means the government has confidence in the House, or the House has confidence in the government, I should say. So we could, be prorogued until March, come back with a new Liberal leader. They pass a spending bill quickly to fund government and then prorogue again until later in the year. And under that scenario, we could end up not going to the polls until October still.
Right. Okay. So there it is, Warren. That's sort of the question Canadians are wondering. They want to pass judgment. They wanted to pass judgment on Justin Trudeau. They're not going to have their opportunity to do that. I think indirectly they will on the Liberal Party of Canada in general, how they've run the country in the last nearly decade. But what of that in terms of the opposition parties now? All of that all of their ability to have a confidence motion, that's all gone. We're looking at March. Take us to March and beyond.
Well, the opposition parties are going to disappear because all of us are going to be paying attention to the Liberal leadership race. And that's just the way the cookie crumbles. The Tories got lots of attention. The government got none during their race. So that's what's going to happen there. Brian is exactly right about how this is going to work out. I was one of the people saying, yes, the Governor General is going to grant their request to prorogue. She did. It took about 30 seconds this morning. So they are going to come back. They have to vote supply. I believe that they've got the NDP and possibly the Bloc in their pocket to get that through. The Tories do not want an attack ad saying, Pierre Poilievre wants to keep your grandmother from getting her check or whatever. They don't want that. So the Tories will grouse about it. They'll complain about it, but they'll let it happen. Then, as Brian says, they will prorogue again. My only question that I'm not sure about in what he just laid out is, does the new Liberal leader go to an election right away in the spring of 2025 or early summer? There's a precedent for that. That's what Kim Campbell did. That's what John Turner did, and they paid a big price. Or do you let the people get to know you a bit better over the course of the summer and try in the fall? But if you go to the fall, you're bumping up against, that deadline that governments have. It's really 4 years. Under the Constitution, they can go for 5 years, but nobody does. So I think that what's going to happen will be, we're all going to learn by looking at the polls. If the new Liberal leader, whoever she is, I believe it'll be a she, comes out and sees that she is the most popular prime minister in the history of polling, she's going to call the goddamn election immediately and try and get Poilievre back on his heels. If it looks like it's still a very competitive race, she will push it to the fall the way that Brian just described.
Okay, Brian, it's hard to answer it basically because we just don't know. But sort of shifting from the government side to purely just on the Liberal leadership race, there will be a new Liberal leader. Are we expecting that the race ostensibly starts now, and there will be a new Liberal leader come March 24th when Parliament returns?
I believe there has to
No.
be. If not,
New
then
Liberal leader by March? No.
there has
No,
to be when they come back. They're going to have to condense the rules. If they come back to the House of Commons with Justin Trudeau still as Prime Minister and try and pass a spending bill, then they will be voted down. No doubt in my mind. But
No.
they're looking at condensing the Liberal leadership race from 4 months down to 2, so that within about 60 days, someone is chosen. They could just install someone, but that's a bad idea. And Trudeau said on his way out the door that he's looking forward to a national, and robust leadership race. But we'll have to wait and see what the party actually does. There's chatter that the party is going to try and shut down new memberships within the week. Why is that important? What did we learn during the foreign interference inquiry? That a 14-year-old foreign national at a boarding school in Toronto could vote to select local candidates. Those same rules apply to leadership race. So they want to make sure that they're not prone to foreign interference, or people like Melanie Joly trying to use Gaza in Israel to attract people who are basically backers of Hamas to take over the Liberal Party. But they're still vulnerable to that. So, we'll have to see how they lay out the rules. They haven't done that explicitly yet.
Okay, because I'm wondering, Warren, you said no, but this return of Parliament on March 24th, is it with a new Liberal leader or is it with Justin Trudeau?
No, you can't pull it off just structurally. Look what happened to Kamala Harris when they tried to jam a presidential campaign into 100 days. The Canadian precedent for a really quick change in leadership and a new leader is Doug Ford, right?
That's right.
In 2018, that was 140 days, okay? There's no way that in just about 3 months, they can pull off a leadership race. Like, there was going to be court challenges. There's going to be all kinds of complaints and so on. They are going to come back, I believe. They're going to vote through supply, and then they're going to go back, into prorogation and have a new leader come out on the other side of that. There's no way they can pull this off in a matter of weeks. No way.
We're expecting, though, to hear how this is going to unfold from the Liberal Party of Canada within days, hours, about what their leadership race will look like. So let's then look forward to who are the contenders. We've mentioned Melanie Joly. We've mentioned Dominic LeBlanc, Chrystia Freeland, even Christy Clark, former British Columbia premier, and the outsider Mark Carney. So, Brian, what is that you're hearing about who can helm this sinking ship?
All of the above could, and I don't think any of them would be particularly successful. As far as Mark Carney being an outsider, though, he's been advising the government since 2020. He has been an advisor to Justin Trudeau since the early days of the COVID pandemic and lockdowns. He is an official advisor to the leader of the Liberal Party now, which the Globe and Mail somehow didn't include when they ran what was a campaign puff piece by Carney just a little while ago. Angus Reid poll out last week. You remember the one that showed Trudeau at 16% voter support across the country compared to 45% for Poilievre and the Conservatives? Well, at the same time they were doing that poll, Angus Reid Institute was also asking people who would you pick to replace? What if this person was leader? What if that person was leader? Mark Carney got 14% support. The Conservatives still in majority territory. Chrystia Freeland did the best at 21%. Melanie Joly got 16%, same as Trudeau, and the rest of them were in further down. Not a lot of support for any of them. So things could change. I agree with what Warren has said, that you could end up with a honeymoon or a bounce, but 21% is your best shot. That's not looking good.
Warren, of all the names we've mentioned, all possible contenders, I suspect that they'll put a pretty high threshold to get into the leadership race in terms of the cost to enter, which then makes it not as accessible to anybody and their wanting to run for Liberal leader. Not every single MP is going to be able to put their name forward, but from your vast amount of experience with this party, what are you looking at in terms of the names that are already floating out there as far as next Liberal leader?
Yeah, because I've been involved in a few successful leadership runs in the federal party. Money is always an issue, as you point out. There's other issues there. The rules, they've got to get rid of this free membership crap that they've got. But really, who's the most viable candidate? And the most viable candidate, not just in the Liberals, but the Tories and the NDP, is always an outsider. Somebody who's not implicated in the scandals and the mistakes. And that really immediately narrows down the field. That means Champagne, LeBlanc, Joly, Anand, all of them are out of the mix. That really just leaves Carney, Clark, and in a sense, Freeland. Freeland actually stepped back and caused a lot of damage in the middle of December with her letter to Trudeau quitting his cabinet. So, who's most viable there? I think Freeland will be tagged by the Tories very effectively as being part of the mess that has been the Trudeau government. So then you've narrowed it down to Carney and to Clark. Carney, I've been very critical of. I think he's Michael Ignatieff with a pocket calculator. However, if you were in the middle of an existential economic crisis, as we will be with Trump's tariffs, you could do worse than having the former governor of the Bank of Canada and the Bank of England representing you at the negotiating table. So that gives him some viability. The reason why I think Clark is the one they should pick, and because I've said that, I've now doomed her chances. They've never had a female leader. Tories have. They need a Westerner, who understands Western Canada. They can't come back without the West. And she's got experience in government at a senior level. She's been a premier. She speaks French. And most of all, she is a centrist liberal, right? She's a blue liberal like me. She believes that those social programs we love have to be paid for by common sense economically. To me, she is the one they should be looking at. I think she is the one that would give the Tories pause. But, right now, the Tories are sitting in a pretty good position. So I think they sit back over the next few months. They did, I apologize for going so long. The Tories did one thing that I thought was stupid that I now think is really smart. Last week or a few days ago, they issued that video, the Wacko video. Maybe we can show a little bit of it. And it was kind of juvenile. It was kind of funny. And a lot of people said, oh, tut, they shouldn't do stuff like that. And I thought, why are they doing that? It's kind of dumb. Now it makes sense. It was the first time the Conservatives had started to broaden their criticism to Liberals other than Justin Trudeau.
That's right.
Right? They started to define the other candidates. So I thought it was very smart in retrospect that Poilievre's social media shop did that.
That's right. Brian, last word to you. I know that there are going to be names out there that none of us are thinking of right now, and we'll hear a name and think, okay, that person's viable for this reason or the other. But I'm wondering, there's been so many sore spots for Canadians against Justin Trudeau and the Liberal Party, because the Liberal Party of Canada is Justin Trudeau. That they're one and the same.
Yep.
What is a new leader going to have to do to extricate themselves from that, particularly if it's MPs and cabinet ministers that have been sitting around the table for the last nearly 10 years? Do they try to, take some wind out of the sails for Pierre Poilievre and say, I will get rid of the carbon tax. What there is going to have to be sort of a remodeling, so to speak, of whomever the new Liberal leader is to get the smell off of them.
I'm not sure anyone that's been around the cabinet table for the last number of years can do that. Despite what Warren said about Freeland having stepped back, absolutely, but she was also the chief vandal in the economic vandalism we've been experiencing here.
Yes.
I agree that Christy Clark is a very viable candidate for all the reasons that Warren mentioned, and perhaps the best. That's something that was actually said on the Full Comment podcast back in end of June or early July with Andrew Pervez saying that. So, you know, there's going to be a lot of people looking to someone like a Christy Clark. You know, my understanding is that when Carney was calling around the Liberal caucus, he was getting skeptical reaction from Liberal MPs who he was calling to say, hey, I'm the guy. Freeland doing the same sort of thing. The Liberal Party president has just put out a notice that they're going to convene a meeting of the national board to sort all this out. We're going to have lots to talk about on this front for days and perhaps weeks to come.
Well, and all of that is going to boil down to a new Liberal leader. Well, let us know what you think in the comments below. Like this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel and go to the torontosun.com. You'll find commentary and coverage there you will not find anywhere else.